Good morning and happy Monday, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a webinar about managing your cybersecurity risk. My name is Marika Deemer, a marketing coordinator here at Action Associates. Let me introduce you to our presenters today, Mike Kaufman, Robert Heckscher, and Jesse Thomas. I'll let them tell a little bit more about themselves as they present, but for now, I'm going to turn over to Mike, and you're going to get to today's content.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm Mike Kaufman. I'm the Vice President of our Managed Infrastructure and Cloud Services Division here at Action Associates. That encompasses our cybersecurity risk management practice. I've worked as a network engineer. I've worked on the sales side and worked within the management side as well. And we have seen steadily an increase in the need for cybersecurity protections in the risks that our customers face. As that risk has increased, as that need has increased, we've seen, an opportunity to share information with our customers and to talk with them about the types of solutions that they might be able to put in place to really reduce that risk. So we put together this webinar really to talk about, what is the reality today of cyber threats and risk. And you'll see Jesse and Robert will both present on different aspects of kind of, situations faced by customers or high-level solutions that can be put in place in terms of protecting your organization from cyber threats. I'll talk a little bit about 5 key practices that we can implement in small to medium-sized businesses, but really across the board in enterprise businesses as well. We'll talk about security culture and what that means for your employees, your teams, your personnel, and how we can help them to approach areas of risk with a curious mindset, making sure that they're approaching potential risks with caution. And then we can talk about, what to do if you find yourself faced with that, with that situation, the undesirable, realization that you may have a cybersecurity event going on. So Robert and Jesse will both introduce themselves as they talk about their content. I want to talk a little bit about Action here to kind of kick us off. We were established in 1979. We really were focused on infrastructure overall at that time, and we grew to encompass a lot of solutions around application consulting, around specific ERP packages that fit into verticals where we had some expertise, and we continue to grow our networking and technological expertise up alongside those divisions as well. So a managed services provider here for the past 10 years. We have been recognized, quite a bit for both for our growth and for our excellence as a managed services provider. We offer fully managed private cloud. I think I saw a number of names on today's attendee list that are taking advantage of that cloud hosting environment. We are also a value-added reseller for construction and real estate management ERP, for wholesale distribution, for discrete manufacturing, and of course for architectural engineering services. And also on the managed infrastructure side for any type of software licensing related to server operating systems or hardware for servers and network backbone and those types of things as well. So we can help modernize networks. We can help push anything that's either left behind to the cloud. We can really assist with network transformation. Our managed managed services staff is really familiar with the industries that all of you are in, right? Because that is part and parcel of Action's core business. These guys really understand what it takes to optimize the experience for Infor products, for Sage products, for Acumatica, and for Deltek products. So hey, that experience really allows us to be a great partner for you guys. So I want to talk a little bit today about the importance of cybersecurity to every organization, every business. One of the things that we've seen is that a lot of the small to medium-sized businesses that we serve, and even the larger ones, they're a high-level target, even though they may not necessarily know or believe that. I think I looked at the numbers for our webinar today, and it makes me understand that a lot of folks do get that this is a really important topic. But what we've seen is in a number of surveys is that a lot of the customers we serve, or the areas of customers that we serve, the types of customers we serve, have a high level of being victims for cybersecurity threats. We see that 75% of small to medium-sized businesses say they would only be able to survive 3 to 7 days if they were out for a ransomware attack. About half of businesses with fewer than 50 employees tell us that they don't really have a budget set aside for this. They're not necessarily carving out a spend to make sure that they're protected. A lot of small business owners don't have measures in place. They think their business is too small to be attacked. And then a lot of folks are even not concerned about attacks. Now, I know that's not you guys because you're here today, and we appreciate that. So I want to talk a little bit about the stigma associated with cybersecurity and a cybersecurity event. One of the really interesting things I think about cybersecurity events is that businesses getting breached can suffer reputation loss, and it's different than like in our neighborhoods or in the places where we lived, or even if a business is physically burglarized. When that happens, a lot of times we have sympathy. We understand that it's not the person's fault that their business got broken into. Even either a nice gated community or they're in a regular neighborhood. And so I've got a slide up right now that kind of indicates a lot of businesses think that feel that they're operating in this kind of safe neighborhood, but really it's a little bit more like the picture on the right. If a business undergoes a cybersecurity incident, it can damage their reputation. And as a result, a lot of businesses, unless they're required by law, are going to be unlikely to advertise an incident or to share that with their peers. In fact, from time to time, prospects come to us to ask for help with a cybersecurity incident, and the first thing they'll ask us to do is to sign a non-disclosure agreement or to work directly with their legal staff so that we're under attorney-client privilege. The idea that businesses share potential events with their peers or even their competitors, it makes it seem like these events are happening less frequently than they actually are. But make no mistake, that can be a false sense of security. This is happening in a lot of business communities, and we're seeing a lot of activity out there, especially in terms of ransomware. So no business is too small for cyber criminals to target. Have you ever traveled to another country or another place, and you come back and you kind of marvel, or your friends tell you wouldn't believe how inexpensive food or a hotel or drinks were when we went to go visit this other place. I know I've had that experience personally. I saw a presenter actually talk about his own experiences where he was able to take out an entire group of people, 20 strong, and the bill ended up being about $100 American at the end. And I tell you this because it really can help put into perspective that different economies can find a lot of value in different amounts of capital. So what that means is that if a cyber criminal in a developing country, or one where the dollar goes a lot further, can get even a small ransom, they don't care how much destruction their activity wreaks, as long as they're able to get that small ransom. So for some folks, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 is absolutely life-changing money. So again, even if they end up causing $80,000, $100,000, $500,000 worth of damage to an organization through their attempt to collect that ransom, they're not concerned about that. They're concerned about this life-changing money that they may get. And what that has led to is that they are targeting the folks who have the least amount, who've made the least investment in protections, who have the least amount of protections in place, who are the low-hanging fruit in their opinion, who are the easiest victims, and they're going after those folks, and they're trying to wreak those small ransoms. And again, kind of like the idea of back in the day when car radio theft was a thing. A lot of times, I lived in New Orleans for about 20 years, and I had my car broken into twice while I was there. It hurt my feelings quite a bit. But almost more than the pain of the radio was the fact that they had smashed a window to get in. Like the damage to the vehicle that I had, and the inconvenience of having to, fix all that was more painful than the actual theft itself. Same concept, same idea. So no business is too small for cyber criminals to target. And I think, with that, I'd like to invite Robert to present a little bit on what a ransomware attack actually looks like.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. My name is Robert Heckscher. I'm a managing sales lead here at Action Associates, but I didn't start off in sales. I started off as a field network engineer. I was one of the frontline support individuals going out there, delivering services to our customers and helping them move forward with what it is that they had to deal with. And one of my biggest first tests was, in fact, a virus. And it was a virus that hit a particular organization, and it was a denial of service attack in which the virus sat on the computer and it just broadcasted out, drawing, sucking up all the bandwidth and not allowing the business to run properly. And what we've seen what we've seen from those particular days is much like what Mike had said. Organizations, and don't get me wrong when I say it, organizations, and they're very well-funded organizations, are looking to obtain what it is they can from businesses that had not prepared for such attacks. Now, it used to be viruses, and it was back in the 90s. You'd come up with a virus, and you'd have this underground reputation for shutting this particular business down, or being able to wreak this much havoc on a particular organization. And you would get your name in the dark web pages, and your notoriety as a hacker would increase. But today, it has evolved into a money-making scenario in which, again, those third-party or those third-world countries are really exploiting small businesses in order to obtain what it is they can. And this is just one example of that. And this is a true example, though I did change the name of the company to save face and make sure that nothing falls back on them. But this was a true event, and it occurred on August 19th, 2024. So it was very, very recent. Now, the attack vector that came through, how it was that the individuals accessed the systems, we can only suspect. We can only imagine that it was a malicious email attachment. It could have been a website. It could have been an additional link. It could have been a piece of software that was brought into the organization. But the key factor in that was that the software itself was able to access the system, and then it broadcast back home to where the attackers were waiting. And once they received that signal, they started their attack. And this is kind of the anatomy of that process, how it was that this organization had suffered through that, and then kind of the repercussions. So the initial phase of the attack was that initial access. So when the application was downloaded, whether it was uploaded, whether it was clicked on, that's the initial access. The second phase, again, comes into the execution. So when the notification was received by the attacker, that's when they slowly start infiltrating the network, and they start to put in the necessary tools needed in order to complete what it is that they want to complete. And then, of course, they go through, and in a ransomware attack, they use those tools to encrypt the data. And you can see down the list, they demand a ransom. They even offer some communication. And then what the company then has to do is either look at paying the ransom or some type of post-attack remediation. In this particular instance, the initial access, again, was via that malicious email attachment. They got into the system. They exploited outdated software vulnerabilities within the organization itself. It was an outdated system that the company had used for a printer that they had to print checks off of. And they didn't think that because the computer didn't have direct internet access, that that system was secure. But they learned the hard way that that's honestly just not the case. So when the attackers got in, they used the systems and the tools that they had at the ready to go through and scan all of the necessary files within the organization's file structure, including that company's backup systems. So with no offsite capability included with that backup mechanism, it was very easy for the hackers to ruin or compromise any restore capability that we might have leveraged in order to salvage what we could from this particular attack. So once they had performed everything that they needed to do, and they've gone through and they've looked at all the vulnerabilities this particular organization they could exploit from this particular organization, they again went through and probed for weaknesses. They created false accounts. They deployed small scripts that end users didn't even know were being leveraged at the time, that forwarded emails to the hackers themselves on the other side of the world. So when someone would email into an organization, email into said organization, that email would go to the attacker and they would respond the way they needed to. So imagine having banking information or payment information being redirected to someone else outside of your organization. This is exactly what started to happen. Now, when they realized that that wasn't going to work for what it is they needed to do, they continued probing, and they stayed in that particular environment for several days before initially deciding on a ransomware attack. And we found this out through our remediation process, but it was kind of scary to think and to see how long these individuals were with, had access to this organization's data, to their programs, everything. It was actually quite terrifying. But when they settled on the ransomware attack, the files were scanned, including the backups, including the documents, including images, everything that organization owned. They then launched the attack when they knew the company was not going to be present, so that they couldn't stop it until maximum damage occurred. So they waited until Friday night after everyone had gone home and they see the activity on a particular network decrease to 0. That's when the attackers launched. And that's when they started to encrypt the data. Now, if they had started to encrypt the data and the end user had seen that access was being lost, they could have stopped what it was that was happening. But because no one was there, the encryption covered everything. Everything. All files were encrypted, including their backup. It was disastrous for the organization. What followed up was even scarier. Company A received a ransom note. It was actually included on an application that on one of their systems. So when they walked in, they couldn't log in. This note essentially popped up on their screen, requesting payment from this particular organization that was on in another country. The attackers even provided some type of communication method, an email address in which Company A could correspond with them. And when they did, they showed Company A that they could restore their data as long as they paid the ransom. So I don't know if that gave me goosebumps in knowing that the attackers could do what they did, but then were blatant enough to prove it, and then also openly communicate with the customer. To let them know, it's like, hey, this is what we did. This is what you can do, and we can fix this for you. All you have to do is pay us our money. So again, that communication came through via an email address, but the company decided not to pay the ransom. And the reason they decided not to pay the ransom was simple. You pay one, regardless of how small it is, your company is essentially marked. You're going to have to pay another, and then another, and then another, until you take the necessary steps in order to weed out those exploitations that may be used by hackers, by those individuals who are looking to do harm to your business. So what did the company do? The company essentially came to Action Associates and just begged us to help. They said, what is it? What can you do for us? So what we did, we came in, we immediately locked the systems down. We changed everyone's Office 365 passwords. We removed the false accounts that we had determined were created days prior. We looked for the vulnerabilities within the organizations, and we shut those down. And then we started looking to see how we could restore the company back to operating. But backups were ruined. So we really didn't have much of a choice until we found an external hard drive backup that they had used for month-end procedures. So what they did was they backed up all of their data, once a month, and they use that within their accounting system, and that's essentially what we had to restore from. And at the end of the day, it still took over a week to recover and to return to operation. But the company A was still a month behind on on the day-to-day operations. So imagine the loss of productivity they experienced as a result of just this one attack. And then, like what Mike had said before, their idea that they're living in a safe neighborhood, and suddenly they're thrust into this situation, and their mindset of security is completely altered, and they feel vulnerable. So that's what Action Associates is trying to do for them, is continually offering up those solutions to help them feel more secure. So in the long-term remediation and prevention, what we had to end up doing, we deployed a new server, updated software, we implemented a new firewall for better network security. We enforced security policies, complex passwords, and training, and a lot of this stuff we're going to be kind of going over today. But you can see what Action Associates performed as a result of that. But again, it was still a loss of productivity. And then they had to, spend additional dollars with Action Associates in order to make their systems right and make their systems secure. So if there's any message received from this particular incident, it's just make sure that you have those solutions in place. And if something like that does happen, you can lean on Action Associates to help you dig yourself out of it. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mike, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Robert, thanks so much for that review. I know a little bit about that as well, that particular incident, and I'm glad that organization was able to come to us. And we've got some familiarity with very specific scripts that can be run against a Microsoft 365 tenant to help identify. A lot of times what will happen there, and I think this happened here as well, it wasn't just a script that the attackers had run, but once they gain access to the 365 email tenant, they will actually go in, they'll read the email, they'll learn the voices of the people. Sometimes they'll impersonate one person within the organization to another. They learn people's kids' names and include them in their fake emails. Our scripts will identify where rules have been created that will automatically delete anything that has a word in the subject that says hacked or compromised or things of that nature, so that even if one of the recipients of the fake emails, emails back with some concern, it gets deleted and the actual user never sees it. So there's a whole slew of things that we can help identify and we can help rectify there. But the key is really preventing that kind of thing from happening in the first place, because it can be really, really expensive for an organization to deal with. And so, with that, I think, it's probably a good idea to ask our resident CISSP and the guy that's really helping us to engage customers with these security practices, Jesse Thomas. So Jesse.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Jesse Thomas. I am one of about 5 people here at Action Associates that is a second-generation employee here at Action. So I have a rather unique perspective on Action, having grown up, and I hesitate to say matured, but having seen Action matured as an organization and grow their practices, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. I am presenting today a couple of easy solutions. My background is in engineering, so I'm trying to keep this as high level as possible. Not trying to drown anyone in a bowl of alphabet soup today. But if you do find yourself getting lost, please take advantage of the question and answer to try to rein me back in. But another issue with being an engineer is that I'm not really a people person per se, so I have the tendency to be a little frank. Actually, that's my dad's name, but I do have the tendency to be a little blunt. So if you're offended by anything I say today, please address all complaints to Mike Kaufman, mkaufman@action.com, and he'll be happy to address those. But today, just got 2 simple solutions that will help us or help you rather, navigate this changing threat landscape and deal with the reality in the situation of cybersecurity threats in today's world. Presenting on two rather, I like to think of them as the most bang for your buck solutions, DNS filtering or protection, and then application control. And these are simple solutions with a lot of depth, and it would be a good idea for your organization to implement these. I'm not naming any particular solutions today. There's a lot of competitors out in the landscape. If you'd like to know who Action selected, feel free to give us a call. We'll make sure that you see the value and the options that we've selected. But first, we're going to talk about DNS filtering. Lots of players out there, but for anyone who's not familiar with what DNS is, it's sort of a basic layer to your internet communication. It's been present pretty much since the beginning, and it's how the internet still works today. It's matching essentially numbers to words. It's like the phone book for the internet, and it's how just about everything communicates over the internet, including malicious attacks on your data. The value of a DNS protection software is really interrupting the communication. So my colleague Robert went over the sort of timeline and chain of execution for an attack, specifically ransomware. But during each one of those steps, there's communication going on between the bad actor and your data or you yourself. And so having a DNS protection software kind of in the middle of that situation can help prevent a lot of that communication, specifically at the beginning of the attack. So when they're coming in, say they somehow, get past your diligent email protection practices and are able to, compromise your business email, having that DNS protection would stop them from being able to communicate back to themselves to deploy the malicious software or be able to do reconnaissance within your network and see the valuable data on your network. The DNS filtering usually contains additional benefits besides just blocking communication to those malicious C2 servers. There's content filtering usually included with the solutions. This can help with productivity too. So maybe keep work a little bit more work oriented and block some categories that may be harmful to your business productivity, like social media or various other gambling, adult sites, or other dangerous content. The solutions that are out there all contain various degrees of telemetry and metrics that will help you realize just what kind of dangerous behavior maybe yourself or your colleagues or your employees are engaging in. kind of data that you may not even be aware of. You might not even know what your risks are. This can help shine a light on it, help you see areas, help you make intelligent decisions on what kind of content maybe you do want to filter. Maybe you realize, oh, hey, my employees are accessing social media too much. We need to block that. So that comes down to, comes out in our reports that we get from our solution. It'll give you, breakdowns of different types of activity that's going on in your organization, pulled straight from the endpoints of your users. It really will give you a better insight and help you make, decisions, and maybe help you with, some security education to let, users know, hey, these kind of activities are just not safe for our organization. And lastly, if for some reason, the first couple of steps of the attack chain here are successful, when it gets to the point of encrypting or sending your data. So a lot of ransomware today will not only encrypt your local data, they will steal it, copy it for themselves, and use it to blackmail you, especially if you have any sort of trade secrets, intellectual property, any sort of important contracts or data that you would not want to be out in the public eye. They will steal that data and take it, for themselves and use it to, blackmail or ransom you. This software definitely is key to preventing that. DNS filtering is generally inexpensive, and it prevents greater than 90%. I am not really sure what the statistic is, but it's in the upper 90s for ransomware, just because DNS itself is such a ubiquitous technology when it comes to internet communications. So securing that will definitely be a valuable thing for your organization. So the other solution that I would like to speak to you today on is kind of a combined solution. So through the history of cybersecurity, there have been multiple approaches to protecting individuals and data. Go back through your various types of access controls, be it mandatory, rule-based, these different types of access controls, and through like device hardening, system hardening, software hardening, where they would lock down and prevent an end user from accessing certain parts of the software to keep them safe. These new solutions that we're using are so the problem with those solutions is that they were very high on overhead. You would have to have a trained and skilled staff to be able to not only implement but maintain and continually upgrade and update those solutions. They would change frequently, as software, as we're familiar, with just everything updating and evolving rapidly. It's a very difficult thing to try to keep on top of a solution like that. So these new solutions, they are very helpful in that they slot right in there. They take care of things like for access control. They take care of things like hardening your system and preventing unauthorized access, and they take care of privileged access management. So they allow you to continue to do the job that you need to do without giving you more access than you need. They prevent malware or just misuse of legitimate applications as well. So a lot of times today, a modern attacker is not going to install a virus, a Trojan, or a worm, or anything that's unknown, because modern endpoint protection can generally stop or protect you from those things. So they're going to use the tools that are already there, or they're going to disguise their tools to look like the tools that are already there. This will prevent that particular vector from being successful, because it will stop those tools from communicating with things that they shouldn't be communicating. Essentially, if a attacker is successful in getting to your endpoint and they're on your system and they're able to either take control of a tool or impersonate a tool that is on your system, unless that tool is allowed to work with email or Excel or the internet in a normal situation, these tools will prevent that from being able to execute and run the malicious intent or payload of that attacker. They also, one of the issues that would occur from like a mandatory access control or rule-based access control, or blacklisting or whitelisting softwares, sometimes there's something that's out of the ordinary. You're a special case. You have to use this tool to get your job done. And it's very difficult to do that in those sort of situations. But with the application control solution that Action presents, it's actually 2 clicks. You're able to communicate with the administrator, and they're able to give you the access you need so that you can continue working and get your job done without any sort of delays or red tape or change controls or various other problems in implementation. Using Action's application control would be of great benefit to anyone to keep your systems secure, as well as keep your employees productive.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Jesse. I love that application control solution. I think, having the ability to control by a whitelist, only these programs are allowed to run. It goes in learning mode. It figures out what's legitimate business applications to run. It shuts down everything else on the machine and prevents it from running. As Jesse said, it provides a lot of control. It even will allow you to, or allow us as a partner for you, allow us to determine what types of programs can be called from what other programs. So if you have PowerShell on your machine, for instance, and you don't want it to be called from Word or from Excel, you can use this application control to prevent those types of of those connections. So all of that is a really key piece of that. It's a great solution. I want to talk a little bit about a story that that we have encountered here. One of our partners shared this with us about a mortgage company, and I think it's important because it goes to show just how easy it is for folks to fall into a trap, even with business email. So this is a mortgage company, and they do business with a lot of law firms. They have to communicate with the law firm of the folks on the other side, or they communicate with their own law firm. When they're ready to go to a closing for a mortgage, they put some money, down payment, into an escrow account that's kind of managed by the folks handling the closing by the law firm. In this case, the mortgage company had a business email compromise. Someone within their organization clicked and gave up their credentials. Maybe they didn't have multi-factor authentication turned on. The threat actors determined, by reading the email, what the name of the law firm was, what their domain name was, and they replaced a lowercase l in that email address with a capital I. They went out and bought this domain. Now, new domains like that will be, the DNS filter that Jesse talked to earlier. That's one of the criteria that's used to block communication with a domain, right? Oh, this domain was just registered in the past couple of days. Probably going to be a criminal website. So in this case, they replaced a capital L with an I. They bought that domain. They sent an email. It looked like it came from a legit thing. And 2 days before the closing, they said, "Oh yeah, can't wait to see you on Friday. And by the way, we have a new escrow account. Go ahead and put the money in here." And sure enough, mortgage business owner wired $250,000 in there as a down payment, and it evaporated immediately without a trace. Guy had to write a check out of his own pocket basically to cover that, or suffer existential loss of reputation and customers. So highly impactful anecdote there, or tale of woe, as I call them. So the small to medium business sector is really a prime target for cyber attacks. We talked a little bit earlier about how folks don't necessarily communicate amongst each other because of the stigma of having had a cyber attack. But the other piece here is that a lot of folks don't think their data is valuable. And data itself, Jesse alluded to this earlier as well, can be exfiltrated and have some kind of intrinsic value. Oh, I've got the secret formula to this awesome product, and now I can manufacture it on my own, or I can sell it to a competitor. But a lot of times data doesn't necessarily have any intrinsic value, but it is always valuable to the person that lost it. And so it's always as valuable as whatever that person would be willing to pay. So it's important. So we have additional things that can contribute to risk. We have complex systems. Folks are accessing Microsoft's cloud, and maybe they're accessing their ERP through the cloud, and maybe they've got a different system or data set, or they're doing some banking over the internet. We've got a lot of folks, ever since the pandemic, it kind of changed the nature of the workplace, so that a lot of folks are still hybrid. There is a lot of return to office, but people working in different places makes the networks that they're communicating on less secure or less controllable or manageable. All of that contributes to an increased risk. So I want to talk about 5 key things that an organization can do to go ahead and improve their security posture overall. And the first thing is going to be your people. It's so important that the folks that work in an organization are educated about not just what to look for, but what the consequences of failing to look for those things can be. How much threat there really is to a business. Telling stories like the one I just told about the mortgage company, making sure that folks understand that these can be existential threats. Businesses go out, companies go out of business all the time after an attack like this because they lost productivity for too long. The ransom, took too much of their cash flow, and if they have a total data loss, 60% of businesses are out of business within 6 months if that occurs. So something very, very important to keep an eye on. Helping employees understand how to spot a fishy email, and you can do that through a series of trainings. You can do it through phishing simulations, where you partner with your IT provider to send a fake bad email, and then you get to determine who clicked on it, who's your weakest link, what can you do to help them to develop that sense of curiosity, help them understand what the risk is. The second thing that I want to talk about here is multi-factor authentication. I think this is such a key piece of a good security strategy. And we see folks that, because it's inconvenient to have to enroll, mobile devices, or, the nature of their workforce is that they're kind of non-technical and they may have some challenges, operating when they want to log in, and they have to, punch in a code on their phone or use the app on the phone. There can be some complexity with getting that rolled out. Most of the time, once it's rolled out, we find there's very little issue with it. Folks have this extra step when they log into certain environments. All of you have probably experienced this before. If you log into your bank at all, or other types of secure websites, you're forced to do this multi-factor authentication with them. You can put that same, and should put that same protection absolutely on every Microsoft 365 user that you have. We see that business email compromise vector, someone getting in and getting control of someone's email address. We see that as such a common way for some of this trouble to start. And it can be paired with other things. The business email compromise can end up leading to the ransomware. You want to put all the protection you can on the front end to try to prevent that. And so not just multi-factor authentication, there are different types of multi-factor authentication. Sometimes it requires that when the app comes up on your phone, you don't just hit accept, but you actually have to punch in a number that corresponds to the request you made. We recommend that highly. Without that, folks can just have a hacker can get the idea that they can keep trying to log in, and if the app on the phone keeps going, do you approve? All right, do you approve? All right, then folks just get tired of it and say, yes, okay, we approve. Please stop bothering me, and boom, that lets the hackers in. So multi-factor authentication is such a key piece and a key thing that you can implement to improve your security posture today. Anyone that's using the Microsoft 365 family of products can get that on their Microsoft stuff. And there are plenty of ways to implement products that can protect other pieces. If you're using the Action Cloud, it's almost certain that you're using our multi-factor authentication solution as well to gain access to the cloud. Could not recommend this more strongly. Even your ERP, if you're using a SaaS ERP from Infor or Acumatica, you have the ability to implement these tools, this multi-factor authentication, and I strongly recommend it. So, the secure password just isn't enough. These things get phished or compromised, or even they call it brute forced. A computer just runs thousands of logins against the login portal or whatever it is, until they find the right combination of characters that lets them in. So we've all kind of seen these complex rules. They're important, but they're not nearly as important as the multi-factor authentication. So we had, this is many, many years ago. We had a customer back in Louisiana, and they ran one of our ERPs, and similar to the mortgage company story, the hackers got onto the network. They did reconnaissance. They learned people's names. They learned the names of their kids. They used that to, develop a fake project to migrate the banking overall to a new account. And even within, the course of a month, they announced the project. Of course, they didn't let the CFO see the emails that were going out, but they announced the project. 2 weeks before, they said, "Don't forget, we're going to be changing, the bank systems over at the end of the month." And then, at the end of the month, sure enough, when a lot of their recurring contract payments were due, this hacker had actually, reached out to those other businesses, and all of them transferred quite a bit of money into the fake account, and it was gone. It was about at least 160,000, and that was at that point the lawyers got involved, and the amounts were no longer communicated. They kind of went under that NDA. So again, these things can happen. In a way when folks don't feel like they're doing anything out of the ordinary. They're not operating on the fringe. They're not doing anything, risky in their opinion, and still these types of compromises can occur. So the three other things that I wanted to cover here are use a security solution that protects against malware and ransomware. I mean, this is your basic protection, right? In the old days, it was antivirus, and it used little snippets of viral DNA. They called them virus definitions. Those of you who have been in the business for a while probably remember update virus definitions. But now the anti-malware software has evolved and uses behavioral monitoring, and uses AI to determine what might be a threat, and it communicates alerts back to, in many cases, a security operations center that can then quickly take action to intervene if there is an active cybersecurity incident going on. So that we think that both halves of that are really important in terms of improving your security posture. I'd say that most folks have accepted this as an absolute must-have. Although we have had some folks push back on the sending of alerts to the Security Operations Center, the SOC they call it, and enabling those alerts. The thing about those alerts that's so important is these attacks always seem to happen. I think Jesse alluded to this earlier. They always seem to happen on a Friday at 7 p.m. when everyone's gone home, or over the weekend at dark 30 when it's the hardest to scramble the resources to stop the attack, to intervene. So having an alert, being able to pull someone in, a voice-to-voice call from a security operations center, really an important piece of protection. Backing up your data, I think this goes without saying. This has always been the case, right? This has been in the past more to protect against hardware failure or storage failure. Your disk drive has gone down, the RAID array is corrupt, whatever the case might be. But now this backing up is really also against these threat actors, ensuring that you have a fallback position, in case of emergency break glass, and not just backing it up regularly, but making sure that you have an off-site copy stored, air-gapped, or in some kind of immutable device that you set for a certain period of time. Hey, this once this is written, it cannot be unwritten for the next 30 days, 6 months, whatever the case might be, so that even if someone were to gain control of the device, there are inherent protections there. And then finally, and this is really important as well, know what you're going to do when it happens, and have some kind of incident response plan in place. What if you have VoIP phones and they're controlled by a server on your network, and that server becomes encrypted? Phones are out. How do you handle that? What was your plan to handle a loss of communication through the office phone system? Who's going to be in charge of making whatever switchover needs to occur? Do they know that that's their responsibility? How do you pull the ripcord or break the glass to make sure that they execute that properly? That's just one little aspect of a host of things that are going to need to be handled if you find yourself in a situation where you have that ransom note and all your data has been encrypted, and you've lost a lot of the functionality so that your business can be productive. So making sure that you have a cyber attack response plan or incident response plan in place is key. It's something you absolutely should partner with your IT provider to develop, and make sure that they are included and understand what role they will play when that happens. You need to make sure that you have all of your insurance in line and know when and how to communicate with those folks. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a couple of minutes. So the other thing I want to talk about before we wrap is creating a robust security culture. And basically, this is about how do you prioritize cybersecurity within your organization? How are you communicating to the people that you lead or that are on staff with you, how to protect the organization? And the key here is give those folks a good chance of being a protector of your organization instead of a victim. Now, it's important to have some tools that can help them, right? We have anti-phishing tools, which evaluate the content of emails coming in, give employees a chance to report what they suspect is a phishing email, but up to your IT admin or even up to a global database of potential threats. Have everyone be curious. Make sure that they understand that you're driving this importance from the top down, that your organization values cybersecurity. They don't want to be the one that clicked on the email that came in and allowed access. I'd highly recommend executing, simulated phishing attacks regularly, twice a year at least. Find out who is susceptible to being phished and help them grow some skills, help them grow some curiosity, help them grow some suspicion that helps them avoid that. And then you can even offer corporate acknowledgement or small rewards for the best examples of the folks that are handling that. So that's a key, right? Your people are one of the most important lines of defense that you have, and all the tools that you can put in place won't necessarily prevent someone from following instructions in plain text on their screen and doing something which could compromise your network. So I'd say the other things here are, provide training and education. Give them some tools, give them some videos, give a corporate set of principles here around that. Give them a way that they can report suspicious activity. Tell them if you see something, let us know. That could be reported to management. It could be reported to the IT department. Hold them accountable for following your security policy. Make sure your policies are documented and clearly communicated, and then let folks know that they will be held accountable for kind of following the rules here. So I know that I got myself here right up against the end of our time. So I'm going to skip my story about the fake IT department, but that one was really a social engineering story where a fake IT department called a user and said, "Hey, I've noticed something wrong with your email. Now you're not in trouble yet, but follow these instructions. I'm going to send you a multi-factor authentication code. Go ahead and read that off to me." And boom, the hackers were in the system. The fake IT department had gained access. So, but I want to talk about what to do if you find yourself in the midst of a cybersecurity incident. First of all, I'd recommend don't use the word breach. The word breach is specifically tied to some legal commitments and obligations based on cybersecurity law that's been passed in a majority of states. Call it an event, call it an incident. Try not to use the word breach. It can require you to acknowledge certain realities. It can start a clock ticking and say, well, that's got to be the start of the incident. That's got to be the start of the breach right there when they use the word breach in this email. Try in your communication to use the word cybersecurity event or cybersecurity incident. So what you want to do is you want to call your IT provider. If it's us, if you have internal, if you have a third party, make sure you reach out to them and let them know, hey, I suspect something's going on, or I'm positive something's going on. Contact your lawyers and your insurance provider. Make sure that you kind of know where you stand in terms of what your policy is. And you certainly should have an cybersecurity insurance policy if you don't have one today. That's not all covered under errors and omissions. And then on the technical side, identify, are we sure this is an incident? What has happened? How did they get in? How can we contain it? Do we isolate the systems? Do we isolate the network? And then work to eradicate the threat and restore the systems. So the key piece is, making sure that you pull in the right players at the beginning of a cybersecurity event. Talk to the IT provider, talk to your attorneys, and talk to your insurance provider. And then, to recover from it, you need to rebuild the systems. You need to determine, how the incident occurred. How did the threat actors gain access? Do we need to rebuild these servers from the ground up while we're strengthening the periphery? And then, of course, there needs to be a post-op. Did we get everything? Are we comfortable moving forward? What happens in terms of did we have enough insurance? Did that work for us well? Did we have the right players in place? Was our incident response plan sufficient? Were we tested? Where can we improve? So all those are key pieces of responding. So, hey, this is a critical issue for everyone. We hope that this was of value to you. We are going to be doing a series of these types of presentations and communications. Excuse me for just a moment. Because we believe that this is a really important topic for our customers. So remember, key takeaways here: educate your employees, implement that multi-factor authentication, use that security solution, your managed detection and response, back up your data, make sure you have that response plan in place. And then, kind of hopefully the solutions that Jesse presented and the incident that Robert described, kind of give you some insight into how these things occur regularly. I know I didn't leave us a lot of time for questions, but if you want to stick around, we'd be happy to, to engage questions at this time.
Perfect. Well, wonderful presentation, guys. I learned a lot. I don't get to dabble much in cybersecurity, so it's kind of cool learning all this stuff. Let's move into questions. I will present them so everybody can see. So our first question is: we've been hit by ransomware recently, and I don't know that cybersecurity insurance was even a thing. How do I choose the right cybersecurity insurance policy for my business moving forward?
So I'll take that, guys, if you're okay with it. I would say this is a lot like, shopping for insurance for anything. Different policies are going to be a better fit for different types of businesses. Just like with car insurance, where you might go, in a certain area, uninsured motorists might be an important part of coverage, but comprehensive might not be, or whatever the case might be. Your cybersecurity insurance policies are going to cover different aspects. Some will cover a ransom, some won't cover a ransom. And the other thing that comes with that is that they're all going to have different requirements. When you get cybersecurity insurance, they're going to make you, make sure you have multi-factor authentication on every user. Make sure you have your managed detection and response. And then finally, there's going to be a relationship between the premium and the deductible, just like car insurance. So really speaking with your provider and making sure that you've got a good understanding of what the policy offers and if it's a good fit for your business is the way to explore that.
And Mike,
I'd just like to add to. Go ahead, Robert.
I was going to say I would add to this, add to that as well, because it's a very important question. The other thing is to review your cybersecurity insurance policy, and that's to ensure that you cannot be held liable for any incident that does occur. And you can do that by simply taking your cybersecurity insurance policy to your IT provider and have them look it over to ensure that you have put into place the needed recommendations by the insurance provider, so that if something does happen, you cannot be denied for a particular claim. So that's vital in having and ensuring your insurance policy is up to date and going to cover you in those times of instances.
Yeah. And just to further add to what Robert said, if you go with Action Associates, we can definitely help your business identify your particular risk and areas that would be most beneficial for cybersecurity and help you pick the right plan for you.
Move on to the next question. My users are notorious for passwords on yellow sticky notes all over their desks. Any thoughts on how I can talk to them about considering a password management solution instead?
I mean, realistically, we've heard of a compromise that happened because the CEO of an organization left yellow sticky note with password right there on the side of the monitor, and couldn't figure out how some of his private email files were being accessed, and they traced it to someone on the cleaning staff who had lifted the password from the sticky note. So telling folks stories about how how physical access to the office grants access, virtual access or digital access to a host of things when those passwords are there is one way to talk about it. And the other way is deploying a centrally managed and required password management solution. Hey, we're rolling this out. Everyone will use this to track corporately relevant credentials. And that's not to say that the IT department has access to everyone's password in a situation like that. They don't. They can get it, but it's a long process that requires either approval or a lot of notification in the event that someone has left or is no longer willing to be part of the organization. But realistically, a centrally managed password manager that's deployed and required as part of the policy is probably the easiest way to address that. That's a good question.
And next question. Found out my email isn't being backed up with my Microsoft 365 subscription. Is there a different subscription level or something I should be looking into?
Yeah. Yes. So I'll take that, Mike, if you don't mind.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
no, of course.
I think, 365 does have a baseline backup mechanism that's included with the licensing, but for infinite backups or long-term backups or even archiving solutions, 365 does offer solutions, and there's what Action Associates provides is something we call Drop Suite, and that gives you again that infinite backup and archiving capability for emails that you might need to hold on to for up to 7 years at a time, based off of life of projects, based on legal holds, based on HIPAA requirements, whatever it is that the company or organization might require. That upper echelon backup security solution is most certainly something that you should look into. It's not just because you need to back up your 365 or your email. A good backup solution will back up everything that you're currently working with within 365. And that includes your OneDrive data, your SharePoint data, everything that your company uses. Because outside of your employees, your company data is your second largest asset that your company holds. And it's so backing that up, making sure it's secure is most certainly one of those things that we recommend our companies or organizations do on a regular basis.
So I'd say the other thing about using, Action's 365 backup solution is that all your eggs aren't necessarily in one basket there as well. You have an organization that is not Microsoft keeping that data for you. So, it can be difficult to take full advantage of that data. But you always have the option, when you have more than one provider, holding onto that data for you.
Perfect. A couple more questions.
Okay.
I think we have 2 more. We have another company that manages our IT for us. How often should they be backing up my, how often should they be checking my backups?
So a untested backup solution is no backup solution at all. At the bare minimum, you're going to want to test those annually. I would recommend at least quarterly, if not monthly, to verify that your backups are actually not only completing, but actually completing in a way that you can recover from them.
Okay.
Hey, I'd add to that, daily is what the reporting should be on backups, right?
Daily
Jesse's
for
absolutely
definitely
right.
checking the completions.
Yeah. Yep. That's Jesse probably didn't mention it because it really should go without saying. There should be an alert if either a backup fails or if no message is received for completion. Either one of those should trigger activity from your IT solution partner.
Yeah, I think that the question could be answered with another question: how far do you want to have to go back in order to, catch up? And basically what it boils down to. And like Mike said, if you don't receive a notification, that's your first red flag that there's an issue, and it should be that should be the first thing to get rectified.
All right. Our last question. Being an SMB, we don't have a lot of money to invest into cybersecurity solutions. What are the top 1 or 2 things we should look into?
I'm going to mute myself because we have 3 different people, probably 3 different answers.
So,
built application control.
yeah, I mean, that's if MFA hasn't been configured yet. That's not really a solution per se. It's a configuration. So I think I can slip it in there and not count against Jesse's total. But all of those are really important aspects of your cybersecurity posture. So any more questions?
Nope, that's the last one.
Awesome. So hey, if you have further interest in finding out more, if you're interested in engaging us to take a look at your current solutions or maybe even make suggestions as to how we could help, we'd love for you to reach out. And again, Robert cleverly gave my contact information out earlier in the call. It's a little difficult to read here, but I'm M. Kaufman at action.com. We'll send a follow-up with contact information for myself, for Robert, and for Jesse, so that you can follow up with us if you want to find out more. And I ran past this. We didn't talk a whole lot about it, but if you're interested in finding out about cybersecurity frameworks or sort of the official industry set of rules that you can comply to make sure that you're meeting industry standards of security, we actually have built our programs off of the Center for Internet Security's version 8 framework, and we can help you explore that as well if you have any interest. So I just want to say, I know we ran a little bit over today. I'm so grateful to everyone who attended. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We think this is such an important topic. Again, we're going to continue to try to have webinars to help inform, to educate, and to offer assistance, over the course of the next 6 months. So, hey, we look forward to seeing you around again. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike said it all there. My only last thing to add is just remind everybody that we have a post-webinar survey. I've pushed it to the center of your screen, so if you could fill that out for us, that would be so appreciated, as your feedback is very important to us. But I want to thank all the guys for taking their time out of their day, and thank everyone for coming out today. As Mike said, we're going to have more coming, so we look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing you guys in future webinars. So everyone have a wonderful rest of their day, and finish their week off strong, even though it's only Monday. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Christine.
much.
Appreciate it.